This video is about absolute value equations. As a recap, an absolute value is the distance away from zero on a number line. So if we had an equation, absolute value of x equals 3, we know that the value of x can be 3 places away from 0 in either direction. So we can be 1, 2, 3 places away at positive 3, or we could be 1, 2, 3 places away at negative 3. So when you solve an absolute value equation, you will get 2 solutions, the positive side version and the negative side version. So when we start with the most basic absolute value equations, where the absolute value is all alone, for example, absolute value of y is equal to 8, we know that y is going to be equal to 8, or y is going to be equal to negative 8. So we'll take that pattern and expand it for any time we have equations that contain more steps. So say, for example, we had absolute value of x minus 3 equals 8. In this case, what we're saying is whatever is inside these bars is within 8 spaces of 0. So that means that it could be 8 spaces in the positive direction, or it could be 8 spaces in the negative direction. So to solve, we start by rewriting this as 2 separate equations, where we take exactly what's in the absolute value and do not change it, and set it equal to the solution that was given, so set it equal to 8. Or we take exactly what was in the absolute value and we do not change it, and we set it equal to negative 8, because we know that our quantity is going to be 8 spaces away in the positive direction, or it could be 8 spaces away in the negative direction. Once we have our 2 equations, we solve them separately and we'll get 2 solutions. So I add 3 to both sides and I get x equals 11. Again, I add 3 to both sides and I get x equals negative 5. The best way to write your solution is in a set, so negative 5 and 11. And that would be the 2 answers that are within 8 spaces of 0 when we subtract 3 from x. So let's do another example where our equations get a little bit more challenging. Say we had 3 absolute value 2x minus 7 minus 5 equals 4. So in order to do this problem, we need to isolate the absolute value before we rewrite it. So we are going to isolate absval before rewriting as 2 separate equations. Here we just use our knowledge of solving equations and pretend the absolute value bars are like a parentheses. So in this case, we'll work from the outside in, so we're doing reverse PEMDAS. So we're going to add 5 to both sides, and we now have 3 times the absolute value of 2x minus 7 equals 9. And rather than distributing the 3 through the absolute value, we're going to divide by 3 on both sides, because we're going to keep working to isolate the x as much as possible. So now we have absolute value of 2x minus 7 equals 3. At this point, when the absolute value is isolated, we're going to take that part that's inside the absolute value and we're going to rewrite 2 equations, one with the positive version answer and one with the negative version answer. So this breaks into 2x minus 7 equals 3, or it's 2x minus 7 equals negative 3. Because remember, that highlighted quantity is either 3 spaces away in the positive direction or 3 spaces away in the negative direction. Now that we have our two separate equations, we solve them separately. On the left, I'm going to add 7 to both sides, so I have 2x equals 10. Continue to solve by dividing by 2, and I get x equals 5. On the right-hand side, I'm going to start by adding 7 to both sides, so I get 2x equals 4, and then I continue to solve by dividing by 2 on both sides, and I get x equals 2. Again, the best way to write your answer is in a set, so I would write 2 and 5 in my set. Finally, it is possible that an absolute value doesn't have a solution. Because we know that absolute value measures distance, there's no such thing as a negative distance away from 0. Therefore, if we ever come across an absolute value equal to a negative number, we can immediately conclude that there are no solutions. So for example, if I have the absolute value of 3x plus 5 plus 6 equals negative 2, I might think to myself, hey, this is a negative number, this is going to be no solution. But I need to first isolate this absolute value. So in this case, I'm going to isolate by subtracting 6 from both sides first. So I have absolute value of 3x plus 5 equals negative 8. Now I have an absolute value that is equal to a negative number. At this stage, I can conclude that there is no solution because the absolute value of a number will never be negative. So I'm going to say no solution, and the reason why is absval cannot be a negative number. Okay, try a few more, maybe pause the video and see how you can solve them on your own. Hopefully you paused, and now you can check your solutions. And I didn't have space to write a set. Thanks.